What is up, everyone? Welcome to the 2017 preview show for the VIP League. I'm your host, Mike Peters. Along with me, as always, is David Roy, giving our opinions on what to expect from the VIP League, at least for Season 1, the 2017 season. Before we kick it off, just some general thoughts. David, what's your overall expectation going into this year?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you have to kind of look forward to and, be excited about is a lot of new ownership groups, a lot of changes that will be made in the coming season. And I'm really interested to see, teams that have committed to a rebuild, they've stripped their roster. I'm interested to see where they go with it. What direction do they want to take with it? So I think that'll be something exceptionally spectacular to look for, and teams that are on the threshold of a rebuild is something else to keep an eye on, how they go about preparing for their future.
Yeah, it's definitely the new teams are always something to watch out for. You don't really know what to expect from them, so definitely gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. If you guys can hear us, okay, give us a thumbs up or something in the chat just to make sure we don't want to go too far and have some kind of issue pop up. We'll get right into our predictions. These graphics are based on what I think. We will then have David provide his insight into what he is expecting. So, first division that we're going to go over is the NFC East. We have some new teams fluctuate. Actually, new teams all around. We don't have a whole lot of holdovers from last year. I have a few, but not many. But Big Tex is the reigning veteran in that division. He's been here since we started, and I have him finishing number one with the, on paper, best team in the division. Jay Niles, one of those new owners we talked about, I've got him penciled in at number two with the Redskins. I think the next three, talent-wise, are all very similar. Niles, I've played with him a little bit on squads. Seems to kind of know what's going on. I've got him just slightly ahead of Dove and Rocky with the Eagles at number four. How do you see the division shaping out for you, David?
Well, your first place team, obviously, we're both going to agree on that. Dallas, I think, definitely has probably the most offensive firepower in this division. I've got the Giants coming in at second, Philadelphia obviously coming in third, but I mean, that bottom three of the division, it's, you really nailed the head on it. It's one of those divisions where those bottom three, they can fluctuate in any order almost. One of the big things, though, that I think will be a deciding factor will be what happens with the Giants. Can they establish a running game? Can they get their offensive line in order to protect Eli Manning, get the ball to Odell Beckham, and any of these other wide receivers that the Brandon Marshall connection is out there, waiting to be made. So, but I think otherwise, Carson Wentz, I want to see how he progresses, and everything with Kirk Cousins, from the franchise tag to his future. There's a lot of question marks for all three of these teams, and Dallas has a question mark defensively. They lost a couple of pieces. How are they going to come back together? But Dallas takes the division by far.
Yeah, definitely have to agree with you there. I think the deciding factor really could be injuries, honestly. In all of these divisions, could be something that's going to be new this year. Not new for injuries, but new with offensive line and defensive line injuries. That can definitely play a role, and teams that are able to adapt and fight through them are going to be the ones that rise to the top. And, even though we put a lot into this as far as who the owners are and what the rosters are and stuff like that, you have no idea what can come down the pipe as far as injuries, and that can always shake things up. We're going to move on to our next division, which is the NFC North. One of those few holdovers that sticks with his team year after year, that is Peyton with the Chicago Bears. I've got him in as the number one team. I know a lot of people might be scratching their head. The Bears finished very poorly in real life. Peyton has been in that division for 4 years. He knows his team better than anyone. He's consistently one of the better teams in the league as far as making the playoffs. He has been to a Super Bowl, so he's got the talent. He's the team to beat until somebody knocks him off. Pack is returning to his home, not his hometown, but his favorite Green Bay Packers. I think him and Gone Fishing could maybe be a toss-up. I don't really know a lot about Gone Fishing. Pack, we have some history. He's one of those guys that can be around 8-8. If he puts it all together, can have a 9-10 win season, can compete for the playoffs. Gone Fishing's going to be right there, though, I think nipping at his heels, trying to take second place out of him. Right now, I don't have a Lions owner, but we do have several guys in the Dev League who will step up. Probably not going to put them in where they'll be able to compete for a playoff spot in season one, but if they do, they'll take them over. And Lions, as usual, going to take up the bottom of that division. How do you see it unfolding?
Well, we've got it pretty even, but a couple of points a couple of notes to point out a little bit. Chicago is starting their rookie quarterback in Trubisky. They expect him to be the veteran, the guy going for the franchise guy, but you have the veteran in Mike Glennon. They expect him to be a reliable backup. The only problem is they have lost some offensive weapons. Alshon Jeffrey went over to Philadelphia. He left in the offseason. Cameron Meredith went down to the preseason. He's out for a while. Green Bay, last year, they weren't very good in pass defense. They're not that great in rushing, so they need to figure out how they're going to balance out their offense. The Minnesota Vikings last year, they were 32nd. They were one of the worst in the league in terms of rushing. Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray are going to have to figure out how they're going to split carries and get that worked out. But bottom line, it's definitely Chicago's division to lose, and we've talked about that, but Green Bay could make a case if they get their things figured out.
Green Bay, they're an interesting team to watch. They always play the Bears tough. So there's always that possibility that they try to sneak it in there. But like I say, it's Peyton's to lose. It's certainly up for grabs. I wouldn't be surprised if any one of the three wind up there. But until Peyton shows us that he's not able to win with his Bears, I don't think we can really bet against him. Moving on, we'll go to the NFC South, which is a division I'm very familiar with. These are my predictions, the way I put them in there. Some people may say I'm biased. I don't know, that Majesty 95 guy, they put him number one. I don't know. He might be overrated, but we'll go with that for now. Tell us what you think about the NFC South.
Well, Tampa Bay's got Deshaun Jackson coming in, so Jameis Winston and him are going to have to figure out a connection. But you have Mike Evans on the other side. I like their roster. I like where they're going with it. They're going to have to move around and kind of come together a little bit to make a case. Carolina, I think, has to get their bounce back year this year. Cam Newton not having his head bounced off the turf is a really good way to start with that. So, in the addition of Christian McCaffrey, that's going to help a lot. That's going to open up a running game. That's going to make play action a little bit easier. Carolina has to win that division by keeping Cam Newton healthy. The Saints, they've taken a step back in recent years. Yes, they have Drew Brees, and that's great, but this defense is not up to snuff. There's a lot of question marks, particularly in the secondary. And how is Adrian Peterson going to fit in New Orleans with Mark Ingram back there? It's a big puzzle piece, but Carolina, I think, wins it. Atlanta and Tampa are going to make a good case either or for second, but the Saints are going to probably finish in the bottom.
Yeah, it's the Saints have some decent talent there. Wolf Mode's been around for a little bit. She always struggles, especially early on, and then she kind of gets the team the way she wants it, and she can surprise some people later on. Hopefully she can, step up, get it together earlier. I would love to see some competition in there. Jay's got a good team. He's kind of a wild card yet. He's struggled at times. He's kind of been around 8-8, which if the Falcons weren't the Falcons, I might put him in second. But the way it is right now, I'm putting the Falcons second. They might even finish first if we go anything about what's going on in the Deuce League. But we'll see. Right now, I got them second. I think Jay could make a run there. I'd like to see him compete. Hopefully, the Saints and Wolf Mode can step up because I definitely love some competition there as well. Moving along to the last NFC division, that is the NFC West. Definitely have some good competition out there. I've got it Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers, and Rams. I think Jay Neihart, who won the Super Bowl in the Summer League, I think he returns the dominance this year, and he takes this division at least for season one. Omliner, I think it's going to be close. I think maybe one game separates that division. I think the CPU-controlled 49ers are going to wind up upping the Rams as much as T. Smith likes to think he's a competitor. I don't think he's there yet. Not saying he can't do it. Don't think he's there yet, though. I think he is going to be at the bottom of the division. Hopefully he proves us wrong. How do you see the NFC West unfolding?
Well, I agree with your top two. Now, I think the Rams have a ceiling of 8-8. I think that's where their potential stands. But I think you're looking at a floor where you can say 4-12, bottom of the division. I think San Francisco, they have a lot of good pieces on their defense, and we know Seattle's just going to be great. They need to fix up the offensive line a little bit. There's still a couple wobbly pieces in there. There's still question mark. Arizona's going to be dominant because they have David Johnson and the no-fly zone there in Arizona. But, a veteran quarterback, these are pieces that Arizona's going to have to look at replacing in the near future, and LA's got to get a few more pieces before I'd consider them a contender.
Well, and they already lost Todd Gurley for a few weeks, so that's going to set them back a little bit. They're young, and they've got a lot of holes in LA, and I don't know if they're ready, but they definitely have the opportunity to at least take third in this division, which would be step up. But at the same time, if they finish fourth, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because probably get a better draft pick, add some more talent to that team. I think they've got quite a few draft picks, so we'll definitely see how that one plays out. The no-fly zone, I don't believe resides in Arizona. I actually believe that resides in Denver, but we'll get to them in a little bit. So moving on, we'll finish up the NFC there. We'll move on to the AFC. We'll go with the AFC East and the defending Super Bowl champions. The New England Patriots, Jerk comes in, first-year owner, taking over those. We actually have 4 first-year owners in the AFC East. I think it's the only division where we don't have a veteran owner. Very strange how that played out. I've got Jerk winning just because of the roster and the team. Don't know a whole lot about him, but I think he's a solid player. And I think, I don't think he's going to be as dominant as the real-life Patriots, but I think 10-11 wins could win that division. I'm going to give him the edge there. The Jets, everybody's sleeping on the Jets. I've played with Worm before. He's not somebody to be taken lightly. I know his roster isn't where he wants them. A lot of people think, 5-6 wins. I don't buy it. I think he's going to be a 500 team, at least 7-9 at the very worst. I think he might threaten the division if Jerk stumbles a little bit, but I think the Jets are going to take number 2. However, number 3, the Dolphins. Bronco Beef, we don't know anything about him really. He claims to be kind of like in the middle kind of owner, so I kind of put him in the middle. Wouldn't be surprised if he knocks off the Jets. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they win the division. I think this division's up for grabs, maybe more so than any other division, but I put him at third just behind Worm Reaver only because we don't know a whole lot about him. Mac Daddy, no disrespect there. I had a tough time picking between who I thought was going to be third. I picked Miami. I think they have a little bit better roster. Buffalo kind of gutted their roster a little bit in the offseason, so I think they're going to wind up at the bottom of the division. But, same like the NFC North, second, third, and fourth could all be flipped around. There's no real right way to call that one. It's kind of up in the air. How do you see it playing out?
Well, you talk about gutting your roster. The Jets have certainly gutted this roster, and they're certainly not going to come in second place on talent alone. They're going to have to do it by a lot of smart play calling, making a lot of smart plays. They really can't afford to be bit by the injury bug. Otherwise, you might see them slide down third, fourth place in the division, possibly, depending on the way injuries go. I have Miami coming in second. I like their roster simply better than the Jets roster, but I think Buffalo has too many pieces that just don't mesh with what they're trying to do schematic-wise. I think the Patriots definitely will probably come in first place simply because it's Tom Brady and you have this division, all this roster pieces that they have. It won't stay that way for too long, but we'll see what it goes from here. I think Miami could make a serious case to win the division. I doubt it. I just don't think they have enough talent to make that case. We'll see what happens when Ryan Tannehill comes back. But until then, Patriots win the division. I think Miami does come in second, though. And then you have your Jets and your Bills.
Yeah, you could go either way. You can't argue it either way. I think this is going to be a fun division to watch, though, because you don't know so much about them. Going to be a lot of battles in there. I think it's going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe one of these guys will surprise us. But that's the great thing and the cool thing about kind of having 4 new guys in one division is you don't know what to expect, so we're all going to be surprised by it. Mac Daddy might wind up being the best team out there, and then the Bills run away with it. We don't know, but always going to be interesting to watch. Moving on, we'll go to the AFC North. And there is a interesting division, as most people that look at this division would think that I have these standings backwards, but we are actually reading that right. That is my predicted order of finish. Everybody is sleeping on the Browns. I am not one of those people. Burns has been in this league for a season and a half. He has won a Super Bowl. He's been in one or two other ones, and he is not to be taken lightly. I don't care what it says on paper. He's going to win that division. Book it right now. I'm not going to bet against him. Visions, I think, is going to compete. I think they're going to have some very quality battles. I wouldn't be surprised if he snuck it and took it away, but I'm going to give it to Burns until somebody proves me wrong. Maverick don't know a whole lot about. He could be a wild card in that division. He's got a decent roster, got some talent on it. Honestly, the top three, I think you could maybe flip around and put in any different order. But we'll have to see. It's Burns' until somebody proves it's different. The Steelers, I got on the bottom. They've got the best talent in the division. Lost Sniper, he has improved as an owner, and I think he's somebody that can compete for this division, but he hasn't done it consistently yet, so I can't put him up there quite yet. But he's got the roster to do it, and if he's going to make a move and make Madden 18 his year, this is definitely the time to do it. But until proven otherwise, I've got him finishing fourth in that division. What do you got?
Well, this is one of those divisions that I kind of feel like, 9 and 7 will win this division. Cleveland is probably going to win it. And the simple fact of that is that Deshaun Kaiser is the young guy. He's good. He's talented. He's exciting. I actually like Pittsburgh, though, in second, followed by Cincinnati, followed by Baltimore. But those three teams, and we're going to keep saying this probably a lot, but they're all really interchangeable. Those three at the bottom, but I think Pittsburgh has the best talent. They add Joe Hayden, so it's going to help out the secondary a little bit. Now the question is in doubt for Artie Burns' future there in Pittsburgh, whether or not they're going to move on from him if they can't get him to develop, with Joe Hayden being the stopgap guy. The big three is going to be crucial. Now Le'Veon Bell has had a couple of health issues, so we're not sure if he's going to be able to stay healthy for the whole season. The only reason I'll really probably keep Cincinnati at third is I'm not sure how Andy Dalton will play. We've seen a lot of consistency over the years. I want to see him step up. Now, they add a lot of good pieces on the offensive line in the offseason, so they can make a serious case. But I like Pittsburgh second, Cincinnati third, and I think Baltimore will probably finish at the bottom. But I can be proven wrong.
Yeah, we don't want to keep beating the same drum and say anything could happen. You don't know how it's going to go, but honestly, that's the way it is. Start of a new season, the game changes, people change teams, people get better, some people regress. You have no idea. So it's definitely going to be fun to play out. But Burns, he's already shown that he can be effective with Jabril Peppers and the Wildcat. That's kind of surprising. That's a very interesting thing to watch. He's a tough competitor. If nothing else, it's going to up the competition from everybody else in that division, so definitely going to be a fun one to watch as we go along. Two more divisions left. We'll go to the AFC South, which I believe is going to be the most competitive division that we have right now. I think it's going to most likely produce the most Super Bowl contenders throughout the course of Madden 18, and it's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, the two top guys in that division are going to square off in our first live play-by-play game as Young Future and Wood Small fight for bragging rights in the division and for first place. I've got Young Future winning the division in Season 1 only because he's going after the competitive crowd. He's been playing a lot of Madden. I feel like he's kind of got his sea legs under him already. I think he's going to get off to a fast start, and he's going to try to put the league on notice as to what he's doing. However, don't ever sleep on Wood Small. He has been to several Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl in every year that we've played, so he's definitely a guy to watch out for. I think they are going to compete at the top of the division. I look for both of them to go like 11-5, 12-4, somewhere in there. They are definitely the top two teams in that division. I think Burns is going to be right behind him. Fired Up is a guy that improved a lot last year in a division with me and Peyton, and he came up every year. I think he won 10 games the last season that we played in the NFC North. So I think he's the guy that can be right on their doorsteps. I think he's going to be competitive. He competed with me. He's competed with some of the top guys in here. I want to say he can win 9 or 10 games. Who knows? He catches. We know Woodsmall started off slow with the Texans last year. If he starts off slow this year, Fired Up could even knock him off. I do think it's the Texans division to lose, at least in season 1. I think the Jags and the Titans are going to be right there nipping at their heels. Got the Colts 4th only because we don't know a lot about him. He's really an unknown. Who knows? He could wind up being the best guy in the division or the worst. We don't know. But until things are proven one way or the other, we've got him in 4th. And seems straightforward to me, but what do you think is going to happen in the AFC South?
Well, I think Tennessee can win the division. And like all these teams, there's always a caveat, but I think Tennessee has the biggest caveat. There's a big asterisk that I have by their name, and that is this. Tennessee can win this division if and only if Marcus Mariota finishes the season. And you can sense it around there. You can sense it throughout the league. If Marcus Mariota goes down, so too do the Tennessee Titans. So I think that's the biggest thing. Houston and Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville probably has the most talented roster in this division. We'll see where they go from there, but this defense in Houston is no slouch. But they did lose A.J. Boye to the Jaguars, so Jacksonville, all around, the most talented roster. We'll see how they handle the Blake Bortles situation. I think that's something I'm really looking forward to. Indianapolis, we'll see what they can do. Offensive line is a couple of concerned. The running game's a bit of a concern. The defense is missing some pieces. I think they're probably at least 2 seasons away from being a serious contender to win the division.
Yeah, the Colts, they've got Andrew Luck, they've got T.Y. Hilton, they've got some decent pieces, but I think they definitely need to build the roster, especially to compete with the other 3 teams in their division. But one good off season, everything can turn around. You brought up a good point with Bortles, and that's gonna be the one thing to really see how it turns out. Although the Texans don't really have an established quarterback either. Whether they go with Savage, I'm guessing he's gonna go with Deshaun Watson. Don't know. Early on, quarterbacks aren't that great. Anything could happen. Actually, Indy and Tennessee have the more veteran quarterbacks and the better quarterbacks, so they could surprise somebody. You don't know, but we'll definitely see how it plays out. But if I was going to call them, that's how I'd put them. We'll go into the last division of the league and where the true no-fly zone resides. That is in Denver. Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, 2 top 5 quarterbacks in the league, lead that team. If for no other reason, they get number 1 spot there in that division. KC, David, that is your team. Got you finished in 2nd. And honestly, I don't know if I would have done that had I not seen the game today. We did do this a little bit after some games have been played, but you got off to a slow start, so that let me go with Denver in number 1 and give them the edge there. The Chargers, don't know a whole lot about. So until we see more, got to put them in 3rd. They've got a decent roster. They've got the best quarterback in the division. Well, I guess it's debatable with the Raiders, but they definitely have some firepower there. They could be a threat. We just don't know what we got in a sizzle quite yet. So we're going to put them in 3rd. And then the poor Raiders, got them down at the bottom of the division. DSP, he's made some strides. He's a guy that he kind of comes up, he shows you some flashes, and then he kind of falls in some areas. He's also busy right now. We don't even know how many games he's going to get in. I would love to see the Raiders compete in that division. I don't know if they're going to do it in season 1. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. But as it stands now, we got them at the bottom of the division. Honestly, it's one of those, don't really know what's going to happen with it. It could go either way. I mean, KC, in real life, they've got a great roster, and they're blowing people out. If they get it together, who knows? But I think the no-fly zone in Denver is going to take it in season 1. I know it's a division that's near and dear to you. No bias involved, I'm sure. How do you see that one playing out?
I think if you flip the first 2 teams, we'd have an almost identical division matchup
How
there.
did I know that was going to be the case?
I think the only thing that, you can talk about Denver's defense, and they absolutely are probably the true no-fly zone. They finished 1st last year in pass defense. Here's the problem, though. They were 28th last year in rushing defense, and their offense isn't that great. I like Kansas City defensively. I think they have a really good front seven. I think they have a back front seven, but I think teams are going to attack away from Mike Peters. Terrence Mitchell really is that weak link on that defense. Kansas City has a really good running back in Kareem Hunt. They're missing a couple of wide receiver pieces that they need to get picked up. They want Chris Conley to develop pretty well. Tyreek Hill is always a threat. They're probably going to move him a lot. Jehu Cheston's going to get a couple of opportunities at wide receiver. You'll see that throughout the season. Los Angeles. I keep forgetting they moved.
I do too. I do it all the time. Don't feel bad.
The Phillip Rivers era is slowly coming. Like the countdown clock is there. I'll be curious to see what they go with from there. And on top of that, this defense is going to keep growing. Now, their secondary, I think, is a little bit underrated, particularly at the corner positions. They have some pretty good corners there in L.A. for the Chargers, and this front seven is a threat. Joey Bosa aside, it's a pretty solid front seven up there. Oakland, you mentioned we don't know, if DSP is going to be here or not, so, those questions resume. Their secondary isn't that great. There's a couple of missing links on the front seven. I think they're an off-season or so away from maybe making a case for it. But, until then, I think Kansas City probably has the better odds to win the division. But, Denver is certainly going to make a case, and they're certainly going to have to make them work for it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprised me if any of the top three teams in that division win it. I think it is kind of up in the air. I know the one thing that can be hard is dealing with two top-flight cornerbacks. And a lot of guys don't know how to do it, and they get scared. We've seen it with Seattle for a while. I don't know if they have two top-flight cornerbacks anymore, but Richard Sherman on one hand, guys try to stay away from him. You can't stay away from your two receivers out there. It's going to be interesting to see how teams try to attack that team. And yeah, they don't have great quarterbacks. I definitely think on paper that KC's got the best roster, but until proven differently, I think that's the way it goes. But I would not be surprised if KC or even San Diego really rose to the top. Definitely will be interesting to see how it all plays out. Before we wrap things up, we've talked about each division. We think who's going to win in each division, how that's going to play out. What do you think about the Super Bowl, or let's just say the conference championship in each conference in season one? Who do you think the two teams are going to be there from each conference? Who's going to wind up in the Super Bowl, and ultimately who's going to win it all?
I think for the AFC, and I'll start there with the AFC, I think the two teams that you're probably most likely to see in the conference championship, I would say probably Jacksonville, and I would probably give that last spot to Cleveland. I think those two teams probably have the best chance of getting the AFC championship game. The NFC championship game, I think Carolina probably has the best chance, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they go up to Seattle to face those two off for the NFC championship game. I think in terms of who you'll see in the Super Bowl, I think you'll see Jacksonville, and I think Carolina will probably surprise some people and make it to the Super Bowl this year. I think this is the year that Carolina can bounce back.
That's an awfully bold prediction, although I can't completely argue. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough. I wouldn't be surprised if we see two guys from the same division in the AFC Championship game. That would be crazy. Undoubtedly, I think they're going to wind up playing in the playoffs, and they're going to see each other for the third time. The winner between Houston and Jacksonville, if they wind up playing in the playoffs, whether it's in the AFC Championship game or earlier, just depends on how the seeding works. I think that team is going to wind up in the Super Bowl. Again, I've got Houston finishing first in the division. I'm going to go ahead and pick them to win the Super Bowl, or not win the Super Bowl, but get to the Super Bowl. But again, I think Jacksonville's right there. Cleveland, don't know if they get enough firepower this year to do it, but wouldn't be surprised, if things work out and Houston and Jacksonville face off earlier, to see Houston-Jacksonville winner against the Browns. And I'm still going to go with either Houston or Jacksonville, probably Houston going to the Super Bowl. In the NFC, it's a lot tougher. Honestly, I think it's going to be the Seahawks. And and it's either going to be the Cardinals or the Panthers, I think. However, the Cowboys are going to have something to say about that, and that's really tough to call. I 100% feel like one of the representatives from the NFC is going to be the Seahawks. One of the other three, I don't really know. It's tough to call. I want to say the Panthers or the Cardinals. Don't know. In the summer league, the Cardinals beat the Panthers twice, maybe 3 times. I don't remember. I think it's twice. So I would maybe give them the leg up, but they're in the same division with Seattle. They might have to face Seattle prior to the championship game, so that could be something that gives either the Cowboys or the Panthers a leg up. I don't know what the other team's going to be. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say the Cardinals, but I don't know. I do think that it's going to be Seattle that's going to wind up winning in the NFC this year. I think it's going to be, if I had to put my money down right now, I'd have to say Houston and Seattle in the Super Bowl. Whew. And I don't know. I guess I would have to go with Houston winning the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a tough call. I mean, that's going to be a great game. The one thing that you can say is even with all of these matchups, there are going to be a lot of really good games, a lot of great play-by-play. As we mentioned, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we kick off the live content, our live broadcast series. We got Houston and Jacksonville kicking off the year. So I think that's going to be a great game. I think we're going to have a ton of great games throughout the year. Getting into the playoffs, going to be even more great games. So definitely excited to get it started, seeing how it all unfolds, see how the new rivalries. Jacksonville and Tennessee have already been talking smack. So I think they're going to be fun to watch this year, and be interesting to see what other rivalries definitely unfold as we go along. Before we get out of here, any last closing thoughts about the season, about the league, anything that you're looking at, anything you think could be surprising? What do you got in a few minutes or less?
I mean, I think the one big thing going forward is, you talked about a lot of great games. There's going to be a lot of really good upsets, too. Some guys just have bad days and they don't necessarily show up, or they sleep on somebody, or, things don't necessarily go their way early and they can be, rolled over pretty quickly. We saw that earlier today, so we'll see going forward. I think there's a lot of excitement. I think there's a lot of hype. I think we have a great group of guys going forward. Hopefully we can get all of our new arrivals to stick around. That would be fantastic. But I think going forward, there's going to be a lot of excitement, and I think the interesting thing to be watched will be to see how each division plays out in terms of their rivalries, what shapes up within the division.
Definitely agree. It's going to be a lot of fun. Real quick before we go, who's your rookie of the year in each conference?
Rookie of the year in each conference, I really like Kareem Hunt in Kansas City. Not biased or anything like that.
Not at all.
He's got a lot.
When he's got a room to run outside, you got to keep him outside and not run back inside into the tackle.
He's got a lot of talent. He looks like a back who can do it all. We'll see if this offensive line can keep him healthy. That's a different concern. I think he'll make a pretty strong case for it going forward. But I think the winner of it is got to be John Ross in Cincinnati. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of speed. I think he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year. Definitely the major rookie to watch for in Cincinnati. I think if you go to the other side, Christian McCaffrey is definitely going to be the one to watch and see how he gets utilized going forward.
Yeah, it's hard to go against McCaffrey in the NFC. I don't really know who you can peg necessarily. There's not like a big name. It seems like a lot of the big rookies all went to the AFC, which is interesting. Trubisky is somebody to watch. I think there's a possibility for him to step up and do something there. But otherwise, other than Trubisky or McCaffrey, it's hard to say. Although McCaffrey's behind Jonathan Stewart. He's still behind Jonathan Stewart. We're going to have to figure out ways to get him involved in the offense. That could be the one thing that really hinders him, which could lead or could let Trubisky kind of run up. Other than that, I mean, if the Lions weren't CPU controlled, there might be something there. I can't even remember who their number one pick is now, but I feel like they've got a decent rookie out there. In the AFC, honestly, I think I hate this, and I hate for everybody else in the AFC. I hate to keep going back to these two guys, but I think it's going to be between Deshaun Watson and Leonard Fournette. honestly. And that's going to be interesting to watch. One of those two guys is going to step up big, and they're going to lead their team. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Deshaun Watson takes the AFC Rookie of the Year. If that was my pick, I'm gonna try to get off Young Futures jock now, but I just, it's all kind of leading that way, and you got to call it like you see it, right? So if I was gonna pick, I would go probably Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Watson, if that's the way I was gonna go. But regardless, it's gonna be a great year. It's going to be a great season 1. It's going to be a great year of Madden 18. Everything's going to come together. We're going to get a lot of good users, a lot of good content, a lot of fun, a lot of action, and everybody's going to be really excited. And I don't know, it's going to be fun to watch. So appreciate everybody tuning in. If you guys tuned in late, weren't able to see it, this will be archived. You can go back and watch it. I got to get out of here. I got somewhere to be. I hope you guys enjoyed it. David, as always, thanks for your insight and for tuning in. We will definitely get together for more broadcasts in the future, maybe for a pregame show tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to have time for it, but we'll talk about it. But again, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Jacksonville and Houston kicking off the Week 1 broadcast and kind of wrapping up Week 1 as we get ready to head into Week 2. So y'all be sure to be there right here on the PX1 Sports Channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We will catch you guys next time.